Is it really worth becoming an airline pilot in 2025?
So first thing, when you ask about the worth, like is it worth to become a pilot, that boils down to your. Hello everyone, welcome back to India's Amount Pilot podcast, and here we are again today, sitting for a podcast shoot early in the morning, and today we are going to discuss 40 most asked questions by aspiring pilots to airline pilots.
Yeah.
And we'll be answering this question as concise as possible so that we can answer a number of questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's like we have answered these questions in the past in different podcasts, and there are multiple podcasts made on each question.
Yeah.
And that will be described in like good long time. Each question would take 10 minutes, 15 minutes, especially with my slow pace of speaking and a lot of thinking before answering. At the same time, in this, we'll keep it fast and keep it quick. So you can consider this podcast as all-in-one kind of podcast, right?
Yes.
It's like, yeah, cool.
Yes, and as we are sitting in the month of June, so all questions which we answer is relevant to the month of June.
Yeah.
So if there's any changes, we'll definitely keep you updated. But if you're someone who is watching this podcast, make sure you note the date is in the month of June 2025.
Absolutely. Because sometimes the requirements keep on changing.
Changing.
Like DGCA recently mentioned that you don't need physics maths in order to become a pilot. Yet that is not active, but it will soon be. So things like
Yes.
that, things keep on changing in aviation. So this is relevant for another 6 months probably, or probably a year. Let's see until the next change comes. And most of the things remain to be like this.
Yes, and whatever we discuss here is like as per DGCA. So as Nilay said, that students from like arts and commerce background can also become a pilot, but that is under draft. It's not yet a formal notice or it's past something like that. So we'll wait for an update on the DGCA website, and until then only we can be sure.
Absolutely. So let's divide this into some parts. So we'll be covering around 30 to 40 questions depending on how much energy we have to continue. And then we have to get to CNTAA training center as well. So let's see. But we'll be segmenting this in multiple parts. First is before you decide to become a pilot, what information do you need? And all those questions will be covered in that. Second part will be?
Second part will be after you make a decision.
Exactly.
What things you would need to start your journey, and will guide you in the best way possible out there.
Correct. Then during pilot training, the third part will be during pilot training, which will cover the challenges that students face during their training, flight training, ground training, or even different challenges that are there while becoming a pilot.
Yes, and once you have a commercial pilot license, what all steps you have to take to get into that airline cockpit? So we'll discuss all of those questions as well.
Yeah. We have sorted these questions out from the comments that usually we get. And over the period of last 5 years, the questions that we have been asked and our friends have, friends were asked these questions. So let's go. So how we'll go is a couple of questions. I'll cover a couple of questions. Chintan will cover, and we'll keep on going. Let's keep this one fast. All right. So Chintan, how to become an airline pilot in India?
So in India, firstly, as of now, we need 10 plus 12th in maths and physics. Once you're done with that, you can go for your medicals. Once you clear the medicals, you can go for your DGCA ground school. Apply for a computer number, clear your papers if you're planning to go abroad. 3 papers, NAV Metrics if you're planning to do it in India. 5 papers, NAV Metric, Trek and Tech Specific. So And once you're done with the papers, go for your flight training. Once you're done with your training, you
Which is 200 hours.
200 hours, and once you get a CPL, you go for type rating depending on the aircraft you are going to fly. And once you get the type rating, you apply for airline interview, and you go for airline training once you clear the interview. So that's the whole process. This is the basic step. Now in this, there are a couple of methods like conventional methods and cadet pilot program, which we'll cover it later.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So next question. I hope that's done, right?
Yeah,
So next question. What is the cost of pilot training in India and abroad?
Cost of pilot training in India, conventional pathway, 75 to 80 lakh rupees. Cost of pilot training abroad, including type rating, would be roughly 1 crore. That is what it is for conventional program. If you go for cadet pilot program, international pathway, that will be approximately 1.2 to 1.3 crore. Domestic pathway cadet program will be 1 crore. That is the main cost if we try to bifurcate it into things. Then miscellaneous would be say 3 to 5 lakhs, which would be your travel cost and everything. Apart from that, medical will be 25 to 30,000 class 1 and class 2, including the tests required for it, depending on which diagnostic center you do it from. Afterwards, DGCA ground classes will be 2 to 3 lakh rupees, depending on whether it is 2 subjects or 3 subjects or 5 subjects. Then cost of flight training. Flight training in India is 50 to 60 lakh rupees. Flight training abroad is 65 to 75 lakh rupees. Type rating is 15 to 20 lakh rupees. Then airline training is 10 to 15 lakh rupees. These are the primary costs associated with pilot training. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, after spending all that money, what are the salaries of airline pilots in India? And how much do you earn?
That I'll leave everyone to guess. Okay. I think I earn like a salary of an FO, right? Because I'm a first officer now. So yeah, again, salaries of pilot in India to start with. These are general basic salaries as of today, June of 2025. Okay, to start with, as a JFO, you roughly make around 60,000 to 1 lakh a month. Once you're released as a first officer, that's around 2 to 3 lakhs a month. So the salary of SFO is around 3 to 4 lakh rupees. The salary of captain is around 7 to 8 lakh rupees. And this is all like gross salaries, I would say.
Yeah, that's correct.
And it doesn't end here. Then you become senior captain, then you become an LTC, then TRI, then DE. So this is the career progression for a pilot in India. But let's say if someone wants to move towards the Gulf, the salary would be almost double than what you're making in India. So that's a good jump. If anyone wants to increase their income, they can always have an opportunity to go to the Gulf on tax-free money.
Yeah.
And and all the investment you have done would give you a very good return if you go to Gulf. That's what I think right now in this market.
Correct. I know this is not in the questions that we have jotted down, but this is your specialty and your most run video on YouTube.
Yeah.
Guys, check that out. In most of the podcasts, we ask you to check that video out because it is that good. Okay. So, how long does it take to recover that much money? Because that is a question important in making the decision of becoming a pilot.
So that depends upon the amount that a student has spent. So there are different amounts for different, as you discussed, the cost of pilot training in India, abroad for cadet and conventional. So on an average, I would say around 7 years is 5 to 7 years is what it takes to recover that amount. And once you become a captain, it becomes fairly easy to get that whole thing. And it depends on everyone's lifestyle, investment, spending habits, and all of those things. Average 5 to 7 years is what it takes to recover. Yeah, moving on to the next question. What is the eligibility criteria to become a commercial pilot in India?
10 plus 2 with physics, maths, and English. This requirement is to be changed by DGCA, but we are not sure whether airlines will change that requirement because there is practical application of physics, maths, English in actual flying. So that may be required 50% plus marks in each of those subjects. Medically, physically, and mentally, fit. Okay, no pre-existing mental or physical conditions. The exact requirements would be on DGCA's website for class 1 and class 2. The third requirement would be being able to financially afford the training, which is the sad truth, but it is what it is. If you are getting into aviation, it is an expensive career choice. It does require the wherewithal to finish the training. Then Indian nationality. If you are applying for an airline in India, Indian nationality, that is what is required. English proficiency with respect to reading, writing, and speaking English. This is the primary requirement. All right. Is it really worth becoming an airline pilot in 2025?
So first thing, when you ask about the worth, like is it worth to become a pilot, that boils down to your the passion, something like that, or your interest into this field. So if you are really interested to fly the aircrafts and you know that this is something you would do for the rest of the life, then it's definitely worth to become a pilot. Otherwise, if you are just becoming a pilot to enjoy the perks of pilot, then it wouldn't be worth to become a pilot because you won't enjoy your job. And if you don't enjoy your job, you won't be happy. Yeah. There will be perks. We'll be going to various places, good locations, good hotels, parties, and all of those things. But then at the end, when you go for your job, you won't be happy. So if that's the case, then it's not worth to become pilot. If you're truly interested in aviation and flying an aircraft, then it would be worth. And financially, as we discussed in the previous questions, like financially how it makes sense. So according to that, make a decision whether you want to become a pilot or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very well said. Because worth is subjective to each person, right?
Yes, there's different meaning of words or different definition of worth for every person. Someone might think financially, someone might think related to, let's say, work-life balance, or someone might relate to their interest.
Yeah.
So everyone has a different definition. So what you are looking in a job, if it fits this profession, then go ahead for it. But then again, to go ahead with it, you need proper finances, proper medicals, and proper training.
Yeah. At the same time, little bit off track, but before actually becoming a pilot, how would a person really know that they love flying?
So without pushing yourself, if you are reading aviation news, aviation article, and say right now I'm just giving an example how a person can identify. So let's say now you are in your 10th standard, but you know that Airbus has something called fly-by-wire. Right. Okay, so that is a strong indication that you are interested in this field. Okay, right. Because no one has asked you to read about that system, but you are interested and you're motivated by yourself to do that thing. Absolutely. So that is an indication. That's what I would feel.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the interest and enthusiasm in the beginning is mandatory, I would say. Absolutely. Add that to eligibility criteria. Like really, it is. At the same time, continued interest is equally important. It's like in college times, you want to date a girl, okay? You do everything in order to finally bas patalo se, theek hai? Yeah. But it's what you do after you're together. That's like what you do after you become a pilot. You've got to do this for the rest of your life. So continue loving her. How do you treat her? That's exactly how do you treat your profession? How do you treat your career? Do you take it seriously? Do you study regularly? Do you do what is required to be done? Are you competent enough in each competency? Understand what are the shortcomings. Understand what you need to work on, and continue to do this over a period of time. It adds to experience, and one becomes really proficient pilot. That's how I would look at it. Makes sense?
Yes, definitely.
It's not only until you become a pilot, but it's continuing to. That's so initially you fall in love with a dream, but when the dream comes true, how do you treat that dream? Is pilot career a good choice in India? Next question.
Definitely, I think it's a good profession to be in. And let's say in India, around 10,000 pilots are working for airlines. So you are one of those rare people who fly in aircraft, and you get treated with respect. And there are pros and cons, definitely. Like, it's not a 9 to 5 job. You work 24/7. So you might have night flight, you might have early morning. So that is one thing which you have to keep in mind before you enter this field. And otherwise, like, as we have been in the airline job for more than a year now, so I feel it's going good for me right now. And I think for me, it's a good career option.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
even I feel
that's
so.
why- yeah.
That's why we are pilots,
Yeah.
right? Yep. Great. Next question. Do pilots get job security and work-life balance?
So for job security, there are two parts to it. One is before you have got a job, and one is after you get a job in an airline. So let's talk about before you get a job into an airline. So let's say as soon as you complete your CPL, okay, there are two options. You can go for either type rating by yourself, or you can wait for a CPL holder vacancy. So in both the cases, the time has to be right. So let's say as soon as you complete your CPL, there's a vacancy, you directly apply for on the airline website, and you go through that interview, and you clear your interview and get an airline job. So that would be the quickest way, and you have to be lucky for that, because airline vacancies comes twice or thrice in a year. Okay. Since past 2 years, we have been observing that. And on an average, what I've seen in the past cases for people who have completed their conventional training, around 2 to 3 years is the buffer period once you complete your CPL. So that depends and varies as per person to person, because let's say if you are prepared well for the interview, and if you clear the interview in the first attempt, then that buffer period will reduce to 1 to 2 years. And let's say if someone is not able to clear it in the first attempt, then in second attempt he or she clears, that buffer period goes up to around 3 years. So it depends on an individual's preparation and the confidence and everything to clear the interview. But let's say if you don't clear the interview in the first attempt, that's not the end of the world. You have to keep on trying until you get into the airline. And we have seen people getting into the airline after 5 years as well. So just keep putting the hard work, okay, and keep taking guidance for people who are already into the airline. That will help you to shorten the path of getting into an airline.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And the next job security is once you are in the airline. So in the airline, if you follow all the procedures, if you report on time, all the flights and everything is done perfectly, keeping safety in mind, there won't be any issue with the job. And let's say there are questions related to the medicals. What if a pilot gets unfit? What will happen? So there's separate insurance for that. If a pilot gets unfit, we don't wish any pilot gets unfit, but in case anyone does, they do get a good amount from the insurance company if they are declared permanently medically unfit. I hope that answers the question for job security.
Absolutely. Very well said. Yep.
So moving on to the next question, what are the risks and rewards of becoming a pilot?
So risks. Let's divide it in three parts. Risks. Will I get a job after I finish my CPL? Would be one risk. Second, as in previous question discussed, will I be able to keep that job after I get that job? Yeah. And third, what if not? That is the risk part. Rewards. Rewards is self-explanatory. There are internal rewards, external rewards. External rewards, money, salary, lifestyle, uniform, respect. It's a respectable profession, like the way you walk at the airport with uniform, and then the way you are treated, and the way you would walk as a passenger on a deadhead flight. Those are two different things. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. So those are external rewards. Internal rewards would be job satisfaction. So let's get to each of those. After completing CPL, will I be getting a job? Good question. Okay. This question is something that is a lot about timing and luck. People who finished their CPL in 2017 and 2018, 2019, before they even got hard copy of their CPL, they had multiple companies' job opportunities right in front of them. They are all captains now.
Yes.
People who finished their CPL in 2010, 11, 12, 2008, they had to wait for 7 to 8 years in order to get a job. So it all is about timing. It's like, how would I say this? If you are at a beach, there's low tides and high tides. You wanna soak your feet in the water. You walk towards the tide. You walk towards the wave. The wave is crashing, coming towards you. In good times, you don't have to chase the waves. In bad times, you have to chase the waves because waves are going away from you. So it depends. Yeah, the high tide will come eventually. The good times in aviation will come eventually. But the question is, are you ready when the high tide comes? When the times are good, are you ready at that time? If you're not standing at the beach when those are good times, it's difficult.
Very well said.
Okay, so that's about risk. Second is medical unfitness. Chintan has already covered. I don't have to say it. There are insurances. These insurances do not actually replace the lifetime earnings of a pilot, but those insurances compensations do give a pilot buffer time in order to figure out something else in the meanwhile. The usual compensations depending on insurances are for permanent unfitness are 1 to 4 crore, 3 crore, something like that. And with that kind of money, a pilot can likely figure out what he can or she can do in the meanwhile. Also, airlines do consider medically unfit pilots to be recruited in their ground force. Usually, airlines do that. So that is what it is. And then again, it's like your discipline is your most relied backup. If someone shows up to a flight drunk and tests BA positive, first of all, he won't be allowed to fly. That is one thing. Second is he is likely to lose his license. So there's categories: first time, certain time, then second time, certain, third time, the license suspension for forever. The pilot cannot fly. And if there is a BA positive on record, no other airline recruits him. So that is what it is. Rewards, salaries, we spoke about. External rewards, those are there, such as good hotels for layover. Sometimes these are good destinations as well. The respect of the uniform is something good. Internal rewards is just how we feel when we fly, when that we do that good landing on the center line, on the landing 1,000 feet marker, and it's a good touchdown. And sometimes it's heavy crosswinds, still you manage to land well. And then that little smile on your face right after is the internal reward. That cannot be explained. And There is no background music running, no nothing, but it's just you, and you know that is something why I'm doing this for. That's the internal reward, right? Then even simple things like you know your performance the best than anyone else telling you. It's like just did IRPPC and the performance was good. So I was like, good. Yeah, that's so. I hope that explains the risks and rewards.
Yes, and tickets obviously.
Your family gets the free tickets again. That is one external reward, and family's happiness is an internal reward for sure.
Yes. So you don't have to think like, let's say today, right now, let's say in next 2 hours, if you want to go anywhere.
Yeah, you just
go to the airport and book the ticket online, and you don't even pay for it.
Absolutely. Then because of the AEP, you don't have to stand in the lines.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So our first segment of this podcast, which was decision to become a pilot. This is the last question of it. And that is, what is the demand for pilots in coming 2 to 3 years or 5 years? 5 years. Let's go 5 years.
So according to me, so before I answer this is all the data which I am going through the internet. There are various sources which I have read before answering this question. So don't hold me for any numbers which I give. It's just a prediction which the analyst makes, and with time we come to know whether this is going to be right or wrong. So as in the podcast during COVID, we discussed that there would be a lot of vacancy just after COVID. So if you're someone who is looking to become a pilot, the best time to start was during the COVID time. And as soon as the airlines bounced back, the people who have just completed their training, they got into the airline with the least buffer time that I have seen. Okay, I'm talking about the conventional pilots right here. So that's how. So now if we speak about the future, the requirements or demands for pilot in future in the coming 5 years, I think it's gonna be there. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean that everyone should become a pilot if there's a demand. So the airline will only hire people who are qualified, who know what they are doing, who are passionate, and they can figure that out in the interview. So if you're starting your pilot training, you don't have to think that, okay, there is a lot of demand. Even if I just get a CPL, I'll be done. No. You have to have all the knowledge. I would say it's basically like your situational awareness, like at this stage, what all things you should be knowing while flying an aircraft and all of those things. So that is one thing. Now, speaking about the real numbers. So airlines in India have more than 1,000 aircrafts on order. So on an average, an aircraft needs around roughly 10 pilots, I would say. 10 to 15. 15 pilots.
With the new FDTL,
yes, new FDTL 15. Okay. So around 15 pilots. So in the coming 5 years, let's say around 10 to 15,000 pilots are required. And if you see right now, the number of pilots retiring has gone up as well. So on an average, the coming 5 years, around 2,500 pilots required per year. Okay. So that's what the numbers which we have discussed and according to the data given on the website. Now, this is the numbers that is for India. Okay. So now, like
for airlines. We are
just talking about airlines.
We are not considering the instructors' jobs or general aviation jobs, just airlines.
Yes. So that is one thing which we have discussed. So we have discussed two parts. One is like, if there is a demand, it doesn't mean that the airlines is going to hire everyone. They'll hire the best of the best. Second thing, we have discussed about a prediction of what looks like or how many pilots would be required in the coming 5 years and the retirement age as well. And now, the upcoming infrastructure or aviation boom in India. So as we know, there are a couple of huge airports which are already under construction. So 2 of them, Mumbai and Jewar, will be operational soon in the coming 2 to 3 months. And they are planning to make it as a transit hub. So right now, mostly the international flights, they go via the Middle East. They have a halt in Middle East and then they go to rest of the world. But now India is trying to be that hub. Okay. And the airlines in India are also expanding international. So when a wide body requires more number of pilots than a narrow body, right? So that is one thing. Second thing is launch of new airlines. Okay. So everyone is talking about Riyadh Air. Okay, which is like going crazy. They have ordered already like 60 A321 neos for the coming year. So when they hire, so they hire from all over the globe. Okay, so they'll hire pilots from India as well. Certain number of, let's say 5 or 10% pilots from India. So then those pilots will also be migrating from India to the Gulf. There are many airlines like in the Gulf. Okay, so that also I have taken into consideration. Okay, so in the future, keeping all these points in mind, the demand will be there. And if you're someone who is genuinely interested in becoming a pilot, you should go ahead and consider this career only if you feel that it's right, your finances, everything is in place. By any means, we don't recommend you to pressurize your parents for finances. They are doing the best for you out there. They know what they can support you for. So always discuss with your parents openly, okay, and then only take a step ahead in this career. Because I have seen people that they are not prepared financially. They just want to become pilots. So they just start initially and then in middle of the training, they're out of funds and then they have to drop out, do something else. That is not the right approach. Before getting into pilot training, make sure the finances are well planned. That is the way to go about it, and the demand is gonna be there. So yeah, that's what I feel. Anything to add?
That'll be all very well discussed and very well said. About finances, it's one thing that whether to or whether not to become a pilot is one decision, and second decision would be if the finances is something that is limited, then whether to do it from India or abroad. If finances is a constraint, in India costs are very much manageable, mainly cost of living, right? So that decision is to be made considering the availability of finances as well. Yeah.
Moving on to the next section of this question, which is after you have made the decision to become a pilot. So what is the first step after deciding to become a pilot?
First step, if you are eligible with respect to the eligibility criteria that we discussed, then first step would be get the medicals. Get the class 2 medicals and start preparing for the DGCA exams. That would be the first step, hands down, in my opinion. So if you are certain about flying in India, start preparing for 5 subjects. If you are certain about flying abroad, start preparing for 3 subjects. DGCA exams are on demand now, so you can choose to appear papers one by one. Start with the heaviest ones are navigation and technical general. Then comes, that is not about importance. Those are all important, but finish navigation and technical first, I would say. So navigation, I would combine it with 1 or 2 other lighter subjects, which would be meteorology or air regulations, technical general, the same with the other one. That's what it is. That is the first step.
Yeah, that's pretty much.
And medical has to be fit. Medical, you have to, one has to make sure that you are medically fit and make all the tests that are required for class 2, but do your class that are required for correction, that are required for your class 1. But because the standards for class 2 are little bit relaxed than those are for class 1, so make sure that you are fit as per class 1 and then start with the ground classes, or you're studying by yourself, whatever that you prefer. But there's so much new information that, in my view, Yes, my view will be biased, and our view is biased for sure, 100%. But I think taking ground classes helps significantly because there are so many new concepts to understand, so many uh, new perspectives to be developed, so much of new knowledge. I'm not saying it is very complicated. It is not complicated, but it is vast. There are just too many concepts to understand. So learn it from someone who has done it, I would say.
Definitely.
Yeah, I would say with this is the top question that we get asked. One of the top 5 questions that we get asked, and that is cadet versus conventional.
So cadet versus conventional, if we speak about the differences in a conventional pilot program, you decide your own pathway where you want to do your training, and after the training is done, you decide whether you want to go for type rating or not, on which aircraft you want to do the training, and then you sit for an airline interview. That is in short the cadet that is in short the conventional pilot program. In cadet pilot program, first you give the airline interview, and then your training is under airline supervision. So whatever you do, the airline is involved in all of those things. So which FTO you want to go? So airline will have a list of FTOs where you can go. So you select as per that, and then where you go for a type rating, on which fleet you do your type rating, and then the airline training. So all of that is a part of cadet pilot program. But for that, you have to give the interview before you even start your training. So that is the major difference. And regarding the cost, so cost of cadet pilot program is higher than the conventional pilot program, roughly around 25 to 30 lakh rupees. So now if you are confused whether to go for cadet or conventional, if you are eligible for the cadet pilot program and financially you think that, okay, this is the amount which I can manage, then go for cadet pilot program. Otherwise, depending upon your finances, you can go for conventional pilot program in India or abroad. Okay. And the intakes for cadet pilot program keeps on varying. Sometimes it's once a year, sometimes it's twice a year, sometimes it's even 4 times a year. So if you're planning for the cadet pilot program, the intake, you might have to wait for a month, or you might have to wait for 6 months to get an interview date.
Absolutely.
So that is the major difference between these two programs. But as I said, how you can decide whether you can want to go for cadet pilot program, conventional, finances, and your eligibility.
Yeah. I want to give a one-liner on this. If you can afford, go for cadet pilot program.
Definitely.
What do you think?
Yes, definitely. That's how it is. So finances is the most difficult hurdle if you are planning to go for the cadet.
Yeah.
So that's why mostly people, to save up those 25-30 lakh rupees, they go for conventional.
Absolutely. Because how it is, because of the buffer period itself, it can cover up the extra spending costs.
So if we speak about those 25-30 lakh rupees which we spend more on the cadet pilot program, so how do I look at it when I was deciding on the cadet and conventional? So once you are done with your training in the conventional pathway, usually the buffer is of around 2 years. Okay. So what I thought is, like, instead of saving those 25 lakh rupees, if I go for the cadet pilot program, in those 2 years, I'll have around, let's say, 700 to 1,000 hours.
1,000 hours.
1,000 hours.
Yeah,
Easy.
1,000 hours, 1,200.
Okay. So that is experience. And second thing, in those 2 years, I have earned that much money easily. So that makes up for it. So if you are able to manage finances for the cadet pilot program, go for it. Otherwise, conventional is also a good option.
Yeah. Conventional would be a good option if someone is choosing the instructor pathway and becoming an instructor. Then that is like way cheaper option. 50 to 60 lakh rupees a person becomes instructor. Instructor salaries nowadays are good. Indian flight training industry is also growing. So there will be requirement for instructors like there is in the US. Then there eventually will be, or probably there are certain instructor pathway cadet programs as well, that in your instructor phase you do 1500 hours, 2000 hours and get ATPL, and then airlines induct. That is also one way. Make sense?
Yep.
All right.
So can I do CPL in US and New Zealand and work there as an airline pilot?
If your parents have the citizenship of US and you have the citizenship of US, you can. If you are an American citizen or New Zealand citizen, you can continue to work in respective country. But if you are holding an Indian passport, then you've got to come back, convert the license into Indian license, and then get a job in an airline in India. The reason being, every airline wants to recruit their own citizens first, rightfully so, which makes sense. That's why there is no work permits issued to expats or people from other countries. So that's how it is. For US, it is very less likely for a pilot to get a work permit under any other passport, because there are so many American pilots that are there. So that's what it is. So no, you cannot continue working abroad if you are a pilot.
And to add to that, I think India would be the best place to start your career for
Yes.
airline pilot, because there's something called as ATPL, Airline Transport Pilot License. So in other countries apart from India, if you want to work for an airline, you need 1500 hours before you can join an airline. So you can build those hours being an instructor, ferry pilot, or taxi flights and all of those things. But in India, if you have 200 hours, you have a CPL, you can directly join an airline. So that is the major difference. So to build those 1500 hours, it will easily take 3 years working in a general aviation. And I don't think so abroad you'll get permission for 3 years to build your hours and then switch to airlines. So that's what I think. Like India would be the best place. Once you complete your training abroad, come back to India, get your ATPL, then decide whether you can apply for airlines abroad or any opportunities are there abroad if you have the proclivity to go outside. But doing your training and then planning to stay back there haven't worked for anyone as of now, according to me and my friend circle, and I have not heard anyone doing that thing.
Because
So-
becoming a pilot and immigrating to other countries are two different things. So if you are intending to immigrate, we are not the people to suggest you anything on that. We don't possess that knowledge. We are not immigration consultants or anything like that. We are pilots. So ask us anything about being a pilot, not moving to another country. We don't know a thing about it. Okay.
Yeah.
We might know a little, but not that we are going to share that. Because that's not our area of expertise. That's why. Not because we want to hold that knowledge to ourselves. No, we don't do that. Now, the third part of this podcast is during pilot training. Once you have decided to become a pilot, now you have started your pilot training and you are taking your first steps into becoming a pilot. This part is about that. So, how to clear DGCA exams?
So I believe there are two ways for clearing DGCA exams. One is you prepare by yourself. Other is to join a ground school. So if I give you my example, as we were in US when the COVID was there, I came to India when third wave was COVID was there. That's what I remember. And then when I came back to India, the attempt was happening after 2 years. And I was like, okay, now I have to clear this exam. Anyhow, okay. So at that point of time, I was in a dilemma to choose whether do I pay with time or money. Okay. So I just sat and thought that, okay, if I prepare by myself, it would take me at least 6 months to 1 year to clear those exams. Why? First of all, I have to figure out the portion or the syllabus of the exam. I have to find relevant study material. And when I go for this exam, I don't know what is the interface of that exam going to be. I have not been under pressure of time because I don't have any access to mock examination. And first attempt will be just familiarization for me. Okay. And there are chances, I mean, if I study, there would be chances of me clearing, but it would not be sure shot. And I wanted something which was sure shot. So at that point of time, it struck me, either you pay by time or money. Okay. Time once gone is gone forever. Money, you can earn it later by your hard work, smart work, however you can. So I decided to join a ground school. Okay. I approached a couple of them. I told them the situation that I have just a month. If you can provide me any crash course, I'm able to give in my 10 to 12 hours a day. But everyone were like, it was not possible. It is not possible for us to coach a single student. And you give it in the next attempt. There's no rush, this, that. And I was unsure if that next attempt is going to be after 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. I don't want to wait for that. Okay. My whole training is stuck and time is the most important thing. So then at that point of time, I think Capt.Neha had just started the on-demand thing, which was perfectly suiting me. Yeah. So without any delay, I enrolled it instantly, okay, for all the subjects. And I gave it my best and was able to clear those exams in that attempt, which was within a month. So absolutely. That's how that happened. So that's how I took a decision for myself. Yeah. And now if anyone is in a dilemma whether they want to prepare by themselves or a ground school, I would always advise them to join a ground school, because apart from education or apart from knowledge, there are a lot of aspects to it. Okay. One thing is knowledge. Okay. That is one thing. Second thing, let's say if you join a ground school, which has a history of around 15, 20 years, you can imagine how many pilots have been trained in that ground school, and they're working in an airline right now. So at any point of time, you need any reference for any airline, okay, you can directly have that connection with that ground instructor and do that, okay. Absolutely. Second thing is you are in an environment of all the aspiring pilots. Yeah. So you have a group of friends, because when you are going after your 12th, okay, so let's say for us, we have done our engineering. So after right. 10th, 12th and college in engineering, right. we have a social circle of friends whom we are in touch with today as well, okay. But for a person who is becoming a pilot after 12th, their friend circle is just when they start, like mostly everyone become friends in the ground school, and that friendship continues for life, okay. True. So that is one thing, the friend circle, because everyone will be in the same mindset to get an airline job. And that is one thing. Second thing is at CNTAA, what I've seen is at training center in Mumbai, the mode of teaching is English only. Okay. As aviation requires English proficiency. And being from India, okay, like if I give my example, we mostly speak in our mother tongue and at our home. And I'm speaking when I was in 12th, okay, for my example. So I didn't have that exposure of speaking or communicating with anyone in English. So it was not that fluent at that time, back in time. But later I realized it, I have to be fluent in this because I want to become a pilot, and then engineering, everything, it happened. But right after 12th, if you join a ground school where mode of teaching is in English, you listen the explanation in English for 6 months. You try to speak or communicate with your colleagues in English for the 6 months. It will give you some amount of practice or some improvement in your language. Okay. And that helps you when you are about to start your flight training.
Absolutely.
And then it keeps on improving, and you have to have a goal of improving until you reach that airline interview. And by this means, I'm not saying that anyone's English is poor or something. This is my example, like how I was in my 12th standard and how I am right now. Right now, I mean, we are every day communicating in English, so it's fine. But at 12th, I was not that confident in speaking. So that's how I improved, and this one was a good thing.
Absolutely. The exact reason why we keep this podcast in English, maybe in other languages, it would gain more views, but that's not the goal. The goal of this podcast is not to provoke anyone to become a pilot or not to say anything against it either. Okay, our job is to provide you with the information, inform you the good and the bads about pilot career, and then if you decide to, then how to go about it. That's the only goal, and that's why we keep it in English, so that everyone in India understands it, is able to gain information from it, and gets also familiar to the language. That's the goal about this podcast, right? Yeah. And about what you said, so Chintan was the first student for online on-demand training for CNTAA, and he did it in 30 days, all three papers in 30 days, and the rest is history. Now Chintan is part of Team CNTAA. We all work on it and work for the students. That's what we do. Okay. Yep. Covered.
Yep.
So what happened, actually, we shot this and we didn't put the mic on. So we had to do the whole thing again. That's why we looked at each other like that covered. Yeah, it is really, really frustrating. I don't like the word frustrating, to be honest, but it really is not good when this thing happens. It doesn't happen often, but sometimes when it does, it's like we said so many good things.
It's not a script or something. We are just having a normal conversation. So whenever this iPad is open, people like in the comments, they are like, "Oh, what are you reading?" and stuff. And there's just questions right here.
Or sometimes it is
there's
pointers.
the pointers. So we don't like read and then speak it out. Whatever comes to our mind, we just discuss like that.
True. That's because unless we have pointers, it becomes a chaotic discussion, which may not be as valuable to you. As long as it is at least entertaining, we are good with it. Last podcast that we did was without any iPad because that was just a discussion, right? So we went without an iPad. Probably a couple of podcasts later we'll do another that kind of podcast where there is no iPad, no nothing, no pointers, no nothing. We just go at it and try to entertain you in aviation discussions. Next would be one thing that, like Chintan said, either you pay with money or pay with time. A good kind of base principle for that, how I look at it as well, is it's a triangle. A triangle. Either you can get it cheap, or you can get it fast, or you can get it good. You can select two of those. Right. Like anything, say you're buying a simple phone, right? A phone. You can either get a fast one, you can either get a cheap one, or you can get a good one. So select any two. If it can be fast and cheap, it can be good and cheap, but then it won't be fast. So we get to select two. So if you want fast and good, money is So this is a deep question. How to stay motivated during flight training?
So there's a quote which goes like, on a good day, you're not as good as you think you are. And on a bad day, you are not as bad as you think you are. So there will be good days and there will be bad days during flight training. And we have personally experienced it. So there were times where, so there's specifically ups and downs, okay? So you learn something new and then you ace it. And then on one day, the things you were ace at didn't go like the way you supposed to be. So in that case, what do? You go back home, you see what went wrong, you work on it. Next day, you try to be better. Let's say it doesn't happen on that day as well. You again go back home, work on the same thing, try to be better. Okay? So it's repetition of the exercises which you are not good at to make it better up to a stage where it is acceptable. And then it becomes a habit and you won't go below that performance. So there's something called as chair fly, which we used to do during our training. So it's you sit in a chair, you imagine that you are in an aircraft, let's say steep turns. Okay, you visualize that you're flying an aircraft, you visualize the procedure for a steep turn. You enter that speed, then you gradually turn left or right to 45 degrees of bank. Once you are past that 30 degrees, you give it a little bit of pull up to compensate for the loss of vertical component of lift. And then you hold it there, and then once you roll out, adjust your pitch to maintain the speed. So if you practice that 100 times, when you go inside an aircraft, it's a habit for you. It's not something you're doing it for the first time. So that's how you improve. Yeah. So one bad performance during your training, let's say a bad landing or a maneuver which was not up to the mark, doesn't mean that you're stupid. You are just trying to learn something which you haven't been doing. So that's completely fine. The idea behind a bad day, or the things to do behind a bad day, is go home, relax, you think what went wrong, work upon the things you can work, and next day just try to improve. Make it a habit, repetition, and I think that's the way to go up. And if you're surrounded by friends who are really good and who are supportive, you can share it with them, you can take inputs from them as well, and see if you can implement it to your training. So for landing, especially when we were training, what I felt is everyone has a trick which has to be developed by themselves.
Yeah.
So there are certain things which is mentioned. So there are certain landing techniques which are mentioned in the books and stuff, but you have to find your one a trick or whatever you called it, and once you get to know that thing, then you have got it, and that is the key to landing. So you have to figure out what works for you and implement it during your landing and approach. Absolutely. And mostly for flight training, the most difficult part I would say is learning how to land an aircraft. Okay, because initially some will be good, some will be bad, but eventually it has to be consistent, a safe landing. And the best landing or a good landing only happens if the approach is good.
Yeah.
If the approach is messed up, forget about the landing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's how you stay motivated during your flight training.
Definitely. Yep. Yeah, that's about it. To develop the landing perception, that is all it is. And once you develop that landing perception, is like how the runway should look, where should the horizon be, what should be the pitch, the thrust, the vertical speed, usually 700 feet per minute plus minus 200 usually. That is depending on the glide angle, whatever that it is. At the same time, that perception is developed by each individual, like Chintan said. That perception has to be developed, and it does with time. So that's what it is. And that was very well said. Yeah. Amazing. Yep.
Moving on to the next question. How to build discipline and decision making as a student pilot?
Two different questions, to be honest. Discipline. Discipline is prioritizing what's needed to be done. The inner voice that acts against it, just mute that voice. If you've got to wake up at 3 in the morning, that's what's needed to be done. No negotiations with that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just what it is. And that has to be done. If we continue to do such things, we would be perceived as disciplined person. As we spoke that we will sit for podcast early morning today. The time that we decided, we stuck to it. Whether now yesterday all-nighter flight was there, whether could have sleep or not have sleep or whatever that it is, better plan sleep accordingly. But if I say and if you say that we show up at this time, we show up at that time. No negotiations with that. That is simple way of putting forward discipline. ADM, aeronautical decision making. Decision making is, first of all, having information and knowledge, the ability to process that information and knowledge and give a cognitive output on that. Having reasonable understanding of human mental biases and make sure the output is not biased against safety. That would be summary of decision making. So aeronautical decision making is a long topic. We have covered it in multiple podcasts, multiple psychometry tests, and all those things we have covered. So if we try to go into detail of ADM right now, that will be a lot. So it is covered under this book. If you all, we don't hide things. This is a Noradian book. Okay. So yeah, it covers many of those things. Yeah. So having an understanding is developed by reading and then being able to apply that in each segment of the flight or in each flight operation or preparation of flight. That is how we developed aeronautical decision making. It comes with time. The ability to process the information grows with experience, because initially it's just a lot many inputs, lot of information. You may be knowing the information, but you haven't actually operated a flight while having that information, and the application of that information may not be as efficient initially, but with time and with experience that develops, because our mental bandwidth increases with time, because our mind is less consumed by each action and we are just doing the actions, understanding the consequences of it. Right? Like the day one in simulators, it's like, oh,
so
okay. Right now, if we just close our eyes, our hands just would go to each place for each phase of the flight. That is because the repetitions. So many times we have done it, so it just becomes a natural action. At the same time, that must not bring complacency. That I know it all kind of attitude. Yeah, we must know. At the same time, we have to think and do. So there's again a quote. The quote is, be quick, but don't rush.
Nice.
Right? Yeah. So we've got to be quick. Aircraft is traveling at what? 300 knots, 250 knots, below 10,000, 250 knots. That's very fast. The things are coming at you pretty quick. So we have to be quick and be ahead of the aircraft. At the same time, not to rush. Not to rush, to think and do. Don't just do it because you're told to or because you've read it. You need to think and do, understand the consequences and do it. Yeah, cool. That's it. Now, these were the challenges during flight training that we tried to cover. If any additional ones, you know what to do. Just ask us. You can ask us on Instagram DMs. You can ask us on YouTube comments. You can ask us by calling CNTAA on 9930300426. Yep. Next phase.
Yeah.
All right. Next part of this podcast is after getting CPL, what to do?
So after getting a CPL, first you check out all the airlines website if there is any vacancy out for CPL holder. If there is any, you apply for it, start preparing for it. So for that airline interview preparation, you start with the basics of DGCA exams. You go through the theory, then you review the procedures which you have learned in your flight training. Then you go through some aviation current affairs, and then you study about the airline which you are planning to join and the aircraft which you are going to fly.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you work on your confidence, on your fluency. That's pretty much it for the airline interview.
Absolutely.
So this is very concise, which I have told you.
So
okay.
Preparing for ATPL covers up that most part
yes.
of it, right?
The technical part
of it, the knowledge written test for it. But what additionally a person needs to understand is there will be psychometry tests. So for psychometry tests, just explore whatever the psychometry tests are there for that specific airline and work on those competencies accordingly. That's what I would say.
Yes. And then once you are, let's say if there's no vacancy, and that time either you can choose to go for a type rating, or you can choose to wait and clear the ATPL exam.
Or you can choose to start working as an instructor for a flight school.
Instructor flight school, or there's air taxi or charter flights, all of those things. But in India, as general aviation is starting to grow, the opportunities would be less. But if you try and reach out to a couple of people, let's say if you apply for 25 vacancies, one will reach out to you, and then you go for interview and things can go. So that's how you manage your time while you wait for the right vacancy which suits you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Moving on to the next question. What is type rating and when should I do it?
Okay, type rating. So for conventional pathway, I would say right after.
Okay.
Yeah. There is no reason to wait out unless you are willing to go for instructor pathway. Right after you're done, just because type rating validity has increased now. So there is no harm in doing type rating right after CPL. There is no point waiting on things. At least that would give a good idea what is to come and how much is to be studied. Because DGCA studying is one thing, type rating studying is another. It's equally vast if we look at it. So earlier one gets familiarized to it. Yeah, that'll be great in my opinion. And which type rating? This question, the answer to this question keeps on changing with the industry, for which aircraft the airlines are recruiting currently, that you will have to understand at that point of time. But thumb rule, there's way more Airbus orders than there are for Boeings right now, at least in Indian aviation. So that sounds better in my opinion. But eventually, hopefully, Akasa and Air India will be getting more of Boeings. So don't hold us on this. You wanna do your research on this specifically.
Yes.
But thumb rule, there's more 320s coming in than 73s right now. That's what I'd say.
So moving on to the next question, how to prepare for airline aptitude test, GD and personal interview?
Okay, so what does aptitude test mean? Aptitude tests, there are different batteries of assessment, batteries meaning questions, okay? Uh, like compass, PILAPT, adapt. These are different types of tests. Each airline chooses their own, but these are mandatory for recruitment by DGCA. These involve psychometric tests. Psychometric tests actually happened after German wings crash, because the airlines want to make sure that the person that they are recruiting as a pilot is in the right mind. Okay. Apart from that, aptitude tests involve things like hand-to-eye coordination. Those would involve multitasking test, then the psychometry, which is the mental health assessment, and the personality assessment. Then there would be tests to understand the situational awareness, working under pressure, how do people act on it. Those are essentially the part of aptitude test. Okay, so if we speak of adapt would have hand to eye coordination, it would have APQ, adapt personality questionnaire, it would have fast, which is a multitasking test. Then it would have, or kya hota hai? What is
English test.
English test will be there, physics maths will be there, mental math will be there. These are part of the aptitude tests. Group discussion is essentially a display of your teamwork. How do you work in a team? How do you help the decision making? How much inputs you are actually giving on a topic that you may or may not know. Okay, that is essentially group discussion. So teamwork is a good virtue for pilots. It is required. We in cockpit act as a team. We don't act as competitors. We act as a team. We work together towards one same outcome. And group discussion is essentially a simulation of that when we are in a group of people, how do we act and how do we help each other and attain the desired outcome. Okay. Now, personal interview has technical and the HR part. In the HR part, it would assess communication skills, it would assess the teamwork, it would assess working under pressure. So the pressure is usually simulated, and in that pressure there are certain mental tasks that are given, such as mental math or such as computing something that requires a fair bit of cognitive effort. That is HR part of the personal interview. And also it would involve correlation with the psychometric assessment, that whether you are a safe and mentally stable person to fly. That is what the GDPI involves. Did I cover everything?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, what are my options if I don't get a job immediately after CPL?
So as discussed, either you can prepare for ETPL exams.
Yeah.
You can go for instructor pathway, like you can become instructor, train students, or you can join general aviation for air taxis and stuff, ferry flights and all of those things. And that's pretty much it, I guess.
Absolutely. And that is to summarize this podcast. Now, next part is, this is the bonus part that we have put into this, is one is, how do we see industry as, what are the discussions amongst pilots and peers? Like we fly every day, so we speak with captains, senior captains, then we have Capt.Neha, who's not there. She has gone on a flight actually and she landed late, so that's what it is. So those industry trends is what this part is. And then there is, how do we enjoy our job as a pilot? That is the last part of. So only 2 parts remaining. Thank you if you are still watching this. We really appreciate your attention and your time. So thank you for that. Thank you for listening, watching, subscribing, and whatever that you do. We wish you a great luck with that. So Now, next part, industry trends. Okay, how many jobless CPL holders are there in your understanding right now?
So as per data, we had around 3 to 5,000 pilots who are not employed in India. And that may be due to various reasons. Some may be medically fit, some are not eligible for airline, or some might not able to clear the airline assessment. And some people have become pilot just for like fun, like they just get CPL for fun, and then they do their own business or something like that. So they're not related to it. So they're out of aviation industry technically.
The ultra rich category.
Yes.
Who just want to
just for fun,
Yeah.
like get a CPL.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that could be the reason. And what I feel is that every industry has a certain number of people who are unemployed.
Yeah.
Okay. And that has to, in aviation also, there is a number. Okay. So here the number is, I would say, moderate.
Yeah.
And in aviation, demand and supply plays a huge role.
Right.
Okay. This number as of now looks a bit on the higher side to me, because in the past 10 years, let's say from 2000 to 2015, the growth of aviation industry was kind of stagnant, you can say, if you compare it
Slow.
from 2015 to 2025.
Yeah.
And the data which we had just gone through was from the year 2000 to 2025. Okay. Now, in today's time, okay, and we have also gone through the average number of CPL issuance in the past 10 years is close to 700. So in today's time, as the aviation industry is expanding rapidly, number of pilots are retiring as well. The pilots going abroad for better opportunities, those have also significantly increased. So in my opinion, this number in today's time can be reduced if the aircraft deliveries and everything is delivered as per the projection. So that's what I think. And generally, when you're starting out with your pilot training, I have not seen anyone who is so interested in aviation and who is working day and night for continuously for like 2 to 3 years not getting a job in the airline.
Yeah. Of lately, it is like that. Yeah.
Because you do get an opportunity to appear for an interview.
Yeah.
And to clear that interview, okay, you need to prepare for 2 years. It's not that, okay, next month you have an interview and you start this month. It doesn't happen that way. It's a cumulative effort over the past 2-3 years which gets you into the airline.
Right. I think the first CPL in India was issued in 1920s.
Okay.
Ratan Tata. Ratan Tata kya bola?
JRD Tata.
JRD Tata. Okay. JRD Tata. I think it was 1920s. Okay. And we are in right now 2020s. In these 100 years, we have had issued roughly around 20,000 CPLs.
Yes.
Right? My CPL number is in 20,000s. Yours is in 20,000s, right? So in 100 years, there's only been 20,000 CPLs.
Yeah.
So pilots from 1960s would be retiring now every year. And every next year, the number of CPLs issued was more. Usually, if we look at the trend, like there would have been very few CPLs in 1920s. Okay, 60s probably more, 70s even more, right? So that's how it is. Now many pilots go abroad, like you said. Out of the 20,000 is the current CPL numbers going on right now. 10,000 airline pilots are employed. Right. So 10,000 not employed. Out of which 5,000 probably they have lost their medical, or they have retired, or they have chosen some other field. So 4 to 5,000 CPL holders that do not have jobs and are eligible, out of which some would have given up the dream of becoming a pilot, because whoever got their CPL in 2010 to 2014, 2008 to 2014, the wait period was so long that the patience was lost and people chose different careers. So actively really ready for the job and actively looking for the job, people currently would be roughly 3,000. Makes sense?
Yes.
3,000. And so for 3,000 pilots and 700 adding, 700 to 1,000 adding every year, we need roughly 50 to 100 deliveries every year. If that happens, then there is no jobless pilots. But there is some people that do not get job. That is how it is. That is about every industry. See, we do need pilots. We definitely do need pilots, and that is pilot requirement is real. At the same time, there is no as such like scarce shortage of pilots right now. There is not. There is definitely not. Yeah. Let's go.
Yep.
Okay, so understanding that, what do you think the future of aviation in India is in next, say, 10 years?
So the future of aviation looks bright to me for people who are really interested in becoming a pilot and have a passion and have interest, since, let's say, mostly it is into the system when we are still a child, and then they carry on until their 12th grade and then they decide. But there are various factors, as we discussed, which lead to a decision whether to start training or no. And this question, the future of aviation in India, will help them decide whether they should go ahead with training or no. So if we speak about aviation in India, the number of airports in India are going to be doubled in the coming 10 years. So if the airports are doubled, there will definitely be aircrafts. So now number of aircrafts ordered by Indian Airlines is around 1,000. And now for the next 5 to 10 years, focus will be on international operations. As we see that the airports which are built in Mumbai, like the Navi Mumbai Airport and Jewar Airport, so they are designed in such a way that they could handle a lot of wide body traffic. And they are planning to make India as a transition hub. So that will give a boost to MRO operations as well, the maintenance of aircraft, the C checks and all of those things. Plus, every city, let's say Mumbai has 2 airports now, like for the domestic and international. So similarly, Delhi has the Jewar Airport. Now there's one more airport in Pune, which is coming up in Purandar. Now Bangalore has one airport and one more airport they're planning to make, or planning to like
Expand
do
the operations in current.
So currently Bangalore has 2 terminals.
Okay.
And 3rd terminal is under construction. But they are scouting the land for a 3rd airport in Bangalore, keeping the projections in mind.
Wow.
Okay. So now Mumbai also is scouting for a land near Palghar for the 3rd airport. Okay. So the airport, let's say the 3rd airport in Mumbai, which will be in the northern side. Okay. So that is a transit hub, like it has a port, it has bullet train and the airport integrated.
That's right.
So I have seen this all projects, like I have read about it, and I think if this is the infrastructure boost that aviation is going to get, the future seems bright to me.
Absolutely. Understood. Right. That makes sense. And like you said, there's like 1,000 aircraft coming in next 10 years. meaning if we average around 15 to 20 pilots per aircraft, and on a conservative side, that means 15,000 pilots would be required in coming 10 years. If we average it out to 10 years, meaning 1,500 pilots per year is what we would require.
Definitely.
And currently, since, as you mentioned, 2010 to present, average number of CPLs issued is 700 to 800.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think there's no shortage, but good enough demand to absorb these pilots, right?
Yes.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, last part of this.
After becoming an adult pilot, how does your day in the life of an adult pilot look like?
Living the dream, man. Living the dream. Yeah, in US, people used to say that, right? Like, you ask, how's it going? Living the dream, man. Living the dream. Or the another answer would be another day in paradise.
Yeah.
Right? What a way to say it, right?
Yeah.
Like, really, it is the right way to say it. If someone asks and just going on this, that, like, the energy that your energy that you're conveying to the other person is okay. Living life as if because you have to. No. It's like, yeah, there are good days, there are bad days. There's both kind of ways, but what is our perspective towards it? If we improve the perspective, maybe the day will improve, right? That's how it is. So, day in a life of an airline pilot, I'd say living the dream, man. Living the dream.
That is true. It's fun. I mean, I don't know. I'm enjoying it as of now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now,
I mean, you do have to wake up sometime at 4 a.m. But that is, I mean, compensate.
Right.
That compensates with
like
the
if we
life
get
you have.
into nitty-gritty of it, not every moment of the day will be like the best of the best that there is. There are ups and downs in every career, in every professional's day in life. Sorry. The ups and downs here is waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning is difficult. But then for that 3 o'clock wake up, the reward is the early morning sunrise that you get to see.
Yeah.
Right? So it's all compensated. Like you said, it's all compensated. That is, yeah. So the bottom line, one line answer, live in the dream, man. Live in the dream. Yeah. Okay. Do pilots travel for free? Just say yes.
I mean, I haven't paid for tickets since I became a pilot, so that should answer it.
Yeah, the airport fees we pay.
No, I go in uniform, so I don't even pay that. And I don't. So I mean, generally it's like standby. So if I go in uniform, I sit in the cockpit if the flight is full. Yeah. So that's why I wear uniform, because I don't want to like miss any flight.
All right. Is flying still exciting after years of doing it? This question is for Capt.Neha, actually.
Yes. She'll answer it in the next podcast.
Our 1 year has been...
1 year is like over a year. It's been good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. What is your most memorable flight experience?
I mean, most of the pilot would answer the same like I would right now. It would be of your first solo, which happened on 8th of May, 2020. Okay. From Sanford to Titusville. Okay. Went on a flight, did my check in Titusville. And then the instructor was like, you're ready for solo. And then first time you take off the aircraft, you are the PIC. You put in that throttle. You have the controls. Then you just do the takeoff. You do the landing by yourself. First landing, you do it by yourself. I mean, that feeling is the most memorable flight experience for me, and I think it would be for most of the pilots out there.
Absolutely. That'll be all, guys. And that's it for this show. Thank you for watching, listening, subscribing. If you are an aspiring pilot, consider signing up for CNTAAonline.in. If you are certain about joining classes, you can contact us on 9930-300-426. There will be Franklin who will be receiving that call, and he will be willing to guide you with any questions that you might have. If you want to speak with us, let him know, and we will be more than happy to connect with you. As we discussed, the first step into this is clearing DGCA medicals and then start preparation for the DGCA. So if you have just finished your 12th and willing to start your career, we highly recommend joining CNTAA. We have many India toppers in the DGCA exams every quarter, every 6 months, every year. So be assured about the training quality. You can check out the reviews on CNTA's Google, or you can check out the reviews on CNTA website. Consider signing up for the free demo lessons. If you understand the online training, whichever mode of training that you prefer, whether it is offline, whether it is online on demand, or it is online live, the choice is yours. The training quality, rest assured, is the best that there is. Okay?
Yes, and thank you for watching this podcast till now. We have tried to answer all the questions in the shortest form possible, and I believe everyone's situations is different. And if you think that you have any different situation apart from what we mentioned, feel free to ask us out in the comment section, and we'll definitely get back to you with our opinion, and then you can decide further. And,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yep.
Thank you for watching. See you in the next podcast. Bye bye.
Good luck.